today's presentation, we're going to look at connections. Behind me, I've simulated two wall light positions. Position number 1 has a cable coming in and going out, and wall light position number 2 has just a cable coming in. What's the real issues when making those connections, Joe?
So we've all been there, haven't we? We've gone to put up a wall light and we find that perhaps it's got a flexible cable coming out the back and we don't want to be messing around with too much, removing that or anything like that. Maybe the terminals inside the fitting are just not big enough to take this number of connections, and so we think, right, let's bury the connections inside the wall. But then we realise that the light fitting has a microscopic base plate, so we can't put a nice big back box in there to make our connections in. We put an architrave box in. So we've come up with a solution, but we've worked ourselves into a very tricky and challenging situation. We've got to get a tiny little screwdriver in your 5 amp connector blocks. It can be a bit of a challenge, can't it? So we think the solution to this challenge is the Wago 224.
Oh, right, okay. We've seen the 221s on the channel before, and these are 224s. Okay, so, physically looking at them straight away, they're very similar size to what was the old 5 amp connector block, which we probably would have volleyed in the back of that box. There's some other differences as well, Joe. Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
You're going to do some technical stuff.
I'm going to do some technical stuff.
Love it.
Okay, the difference between the two is one is white and one is grey, Joe.
You did that without your glasses?
I did.
Most impressive.
Your turn.
Okay, thanks. Throwing me a bone now, yeah? So if we look at the two connectors there, you can see that one's grey and one's white for a reason. You look at the differences here. We're looking at this side of the connector. This is like the input side. Okay, so this is where we're going to put our solid conductors that are coming out of the wall. And you can see here that we've got, in the grey connector, we've got a single terminal. So that's just going to take one solid conductor. And then on the white connector, we've got 2 terminals in there. So we're going to be able to connect into that 2 solid conductors, one in each side of there.
So if we take the grey one then, that would be ideal for this one, the point with only one cable. So we've got the switching line conductor coming in and we'll put it in what you've called the input side. When we turn it around, what have we got?
So on the other side, we've got what I think of as the output side of the connector. So this is a square terminal, and we make this connection by squeezing that down, putting the flex in, and then opening it up. We'll show that in a little bit more detail later on. And on this side, this is designed to take a stranded conductor, so this would be the flexible conductor that's going out into our light fitting itself.
And the white connector you described had 2 holes. So we've got here 2 switching line, 2 neutral, 2 CPC. So ideally suited to take the feed in and then the feed out in that side of the connector.
Absolutely, and the output side at this position would again go out with the flexible stranded conductor to your light fitting. Okay,
they're Wago connectors, so they will state on them the maximum conductor size that they can take, which is it, Joe?
Absolutely, so that's 2.5 millimeters, and that's on the stranded side and on the solid side.
Okay, so be careful on the next one. They will also have a voltage and current rating for Europe on there, Joe.
Never catch us giving you the Japanese sizes by accident. So we've got here 400 volts, so that's the voltage rating of the connector block, and we've got 24 amps of current, which I'm sure you'll agree is more than enough for most lighting circuits.
I think what we do now is actually we bring the camera in and let's show how versatile the 224s are, and in order to make the connections for these lights.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to be connecting the grey versions of the 224s, and just to remind you, as always, the Wago connector says on one side of it the amount of insulation to remove. In this case, we've removed 10 mil of insulation, and we're going to insert first of all the solid conductor into here, which is the input effectively that Joe described earlier. Simple case of just pushing it into position like so, and then it's connected, won't pull out. As always, to remove it, it's that twist and pull in order to remove it from this connector. Let's do the neutral next. So exactly the same as before. Push into the hole like so, and then the CPC. So we've got all 3 of our conductors connected in like so. And we're now ready to insert the actual flexes in the other side. So that would be simulating the actual wall light itself. So we're simulating now the flex that would be connected to your wall light. And what we're going to do is simply squeeze here to open up the hole inside it. So squeeze down, it opens up the hole so you can insert your flex. Again, 10 mil insulation removed. It doesn't affect the conductor at the back. By squeezing that, it doesn't mean it's going to pull off. In order to remove that, it's that twist and pull in order to get the solid conductor out. So insert like so, voila, connected. And let's do the neutral. Squeeze, insert like so, release. And the CPC, squeeze, insert and release. And now these are simply dressed into the actual box itself, and this would simulate the actual wall light. So that's it connected. Joe, your turn next.
So just to mix it up a little bit, Gaz, I thought we'd do this the other way around. We'll install the flexible conductors into the connector first, and then we'll put them onto the solid. So again, it's just worth reiterating that we twist the end of the flexible conductors together to make sure that we get a decent connection. We capture every single strand of that stranded conductor. So we'll squeeze the connector block closed, and again just poke that inside and release, and you can tell you've got it because this doesn't pop up quite as far as it was in the first place when we connected this. You can see that it stays down a little bit, so you've got a nice connection. So we'll now put the CPC into there as well, and then finally it's just a matter of squeezing the connector and popping the line conductor in. So now we've got those stranded conductors in, we'll hand this over to Gaz.
So let's have a look at the two conductor connectors. So again, 2 holes this time. In this case, we'll start with the neutrals. We'll just firmly push them into place like so. There's one, and then the second one, in it goes. Easy as that. So they're connected now. Remember, we don't press this in any way. That's only for the stranded conductor. Let's move around and do the line conductors next. One like, push it in there, and then likewise again for the other one. So that's connected, and then finally the CPCs. Just find these are a little bit more difficult because obviously you've got the sleeving on the outside and it tends to move around. So when you're doing the CPCs, it's really important we get it positioned in like so, locks, and again hold really firmly onto the actual conductors before we lock them into position. Also to note that you can see a testing terminal here, so we could test for continuity CPC at this point here, meaning that maybe we can pick the line conductor up here and then maybe the exposed conductive part of the light fitting if you wanted to as well. So there is a testing point within here as well. So here at eFIXX, we like products that make electricians' life easier, and do we believe the 224 from Wago makes electricians' life easier, Joe?
Absolutely. It takes up a bit less space than the Wago 221, which is obviously ideal when you're working in very small spaces like we've got here, and also just the easier connection, just a push fit on one side and a simple sprung connection on the other side, and because it's Wago, you know it's making a good quality connection.